The armory smelled like metal and gun oil. Connor Blake ran his fingers along the plasma rifle, checking it for the third time. His hands shook slightly. Around him, other soldiers prepared for the coming battle. Most were veterans who moved with practiced efficiency. Connor was not one of them. He glanced at the humans standing beside him. The man worked quietly, loading ammunition into magazine after magazine. He wore standard coalition armor, but it was scratched and dented in places. His face had several scars, including one that ran from his left eyebrow to his cheek. Despite this, he looked completely calm. Connor's curiosity won over his nervousness. "Excuse me," he said. The human looked up. "Is this your first fight?" The human paused, then a slight smile crossed his face. "First today, maybe not the last." Connor blinked. "Today? You've already fought today?" "3 times," the human said casually, returning to his ammunition. "Early morning patrol ran into a Kreth scout team. Then we defended the eastern sensor array. That was around noon, cleared out an ambush near the landing pads about 2 hours ago." He looked at Connor. "Jake Martinez, you're Velkari, right?" "Yes, Connor Blake. I arrived yesterday." Connor stared at Jake. "You fought 3 times already? Don't you need to rest?" Jake shrugged. "I'll sleep when we're done here." He finished loading the last magazine and stood up. "First deployment?" "Yes," Connor admitted. "I trained for 6 months, but this is my first real combat situation." "You'll do fine," Jake said. "Stick close to your unit commander. Follow orders. Keep your head down when the shooting starts." An alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed along the walls. A voice came over the speakers. "All units to briefing room. Immediate deployment required." Jake grabbed his rifle and headed for the door. Connor hurried after him, along with dozens of other soldiers. They filled the briefing room quickly. Captain Lisa Warren stood at the front, her expression serious. A holographic map floated beside her, showing the terrain of Keras 7. "We have confirmed Kreth movement toward Supply Depot 7, Lisa said. "Intelligence estimates 200 enemy soldiers, possibly more. Our job is to hold that depot. We cannot let them take it. The supplies there are critical for the entire sector." She pointed to the map. "We'll have air support for the first hour. After that, they need to refuel and rearm. We hold the line until reinforcements arrive." Connor felt his stomach tighten. 200 enemies. His mouth went dry. "Load up," Lisa ordered. "We leave in 10 minutes." The soldiers moved toward the transport bay. Connor found himself walking beside Jake again. The human checked his rifle one more time, his movements automatic. 200, Connor said quietly. "That's a lot." "Could be worse," Jake replied. "Could be 300. A Velkari soldier nearby made a clicking sound, their species equivalent of nervous laughter. "How can you joke at a time like this?" Jake looked at him. "If I don't laugh, I'll think too much. Thinking too much before a fight is bad." They boarded the transport ship. The interior was cramped and loud. Soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder on metal benches. Connor ended up between Jake and a human woman who was checking medical supplies. "Megan Torres," she introduced herself. "I'm the medic for this unit." "Connor Blake," he replied. Then, because he couldn't help himself, he asked, "Have you been in many fights?" Megan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "More than I can count. Don't worry, kid. I'll patch you up if anything goes wrong." "Megan and I go way back," Jake said. "She saved my life at least 4 times. 5, Megan corrected. "You forgot about the incident on New Horizon." Something passed between them at those words. Jake's smile faded. Megan looked away. Connor wanted to ask what New Horizon was, but the moment felt too heavy. The transport lurched as it launched from the station. Through the small windows, Connor could see Keras 7 growing larger. The planet looked beautiful from space, with blue oceans and green continents. It was hard to believe a war was happening down there. The flight took 20 minutes. Nobody spoke much. Some soldiers closed their eyes, trying to rest. Others checked their weapons again and again. Jake sat perfectly still, his eyes distant, like he was somewhere else entirely. When they landed, the rear door opened with a hiss. Hot air rushed in, carrying the smell of smoke and something burnt. The soldiers filed out onto a landing pad made of concrete. Supply Depot 7 sat in a valley surrounded by rocky hills. Large warehouses filled with equipment and ammunition covered several acres. Defensive positions, Lisa ordered. Alpha Team, take the north wall. Beta Team, east wall. Gamma Team, west wall. Delta Team, you're with me on the south side. The soldiers spread out. Connor found himself assigned to Beta Team with Jake and several others. They ran to the east wall, which was really just a barrier of stacked supply containers. Behind them, the warehouses loomed large. "Contact in 15 minutes," someone reported over the radio. Connor crouched behind a container, his rifle ready. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. Beside him, Jake checked his rifle one last time, then settled into position. He looked completely relaxed, like he was waiting for a bus instead of an enemy attack. "You really fought 3 times today?" Connor asked, trying to distract himself from his fear. "Yeah," Jake replied. "It's been a busy day. How do you do it? How do you keep going?" Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You just do. When the fighting starts, your training kicks in. You do your job. You help your team. And then when it's over, you get ready for the next one." He looked at Connor. "You're going to be fine, Blake. Just remember your training." Before Connor could respond, the radio crackled. "Enemy spotted. 1 kilometer out and closing fast." Jake raised his rifle. "Here we go," he said calmly. "Stay sharp." Connor gripped his own weapon tighter. Through the scope, he could see movement on the distant hills. Dark shapes moving fast. The Kreth were coming. The battle was about to begin. The first shots came from the hills. Bright blue plasma bolts streaked across the valley, slamming into the walls and containers. Connor ducked instinctively as one blast hit just above his head, melting a hole in the metal. "Return fire!" someone shouted over the radio. Jake's rifle barked 3 times in quick succession. Connor forced himself to look through his scope. He could see Kreth soldiers now, their tall insectoid bodies moving between rocks. He aimed at one and pulled the trigger. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. He missed. "Breathe," Jake said beside him, still firing in controlled bursts. "Take your time. They're not close yet." Connor tried again. This time, his shot hit a rock near a Kreth soldier, forcing it to take cover. Not a kill, but better than nothing. The battle intensified quickly. More Kreth appeared from the hills, dozens of them. They moved in coordinated groups, using the terrain for cover. Coalition aircraft screamed overhead, dropping bombs on enemy positions. Explosions shook the ground. "They're trying to flank us," someone yelled. "Movement on the north side." "Beta Team, hold position," Captain Lisa's voice came through the radio. "Alpha Team is repositioning." Connor fired again and again. His hands stopped shaking after the first few minutes. His training took over, just like Jake had said. Aim, fire, take cover, repeat. Around him, other soldiers did the same. The noise was incredible, a constant roar of weapons fire and explosions. Then Connor saw them. A group of Kreth had made it past the initial defenses. They were running toward the warehouses from the east side, using a drainage ditch for cover. 6 of them moving fast. "Infiltrators!" Connor shouted into his radio. "East side, heading for Warehouse 3. "Beta Team, intercept," Lisa ordered. Jake was already moving. He vaulted over the container wall and ran toward the warehouse. Connor and 3 other soldiers followed. Lieutenant Kyle Harrison, a human tactical officer, took point. Behind them, a human woman named Beth Sanders carried a large pack of explosives. They reached the warehouse just as the Kreth entered through a side door. Kyle made hand signals. 2 soldiers went left, 2 went right. Jake and Connor went straight through the main entrance. Inside, the warehouse was dark and filled with stacked crates. Shadows moved between the aisles. Connor's breath came fast and shallow. Somewhere ahead, he heard clicking sounds. Kreth communication. Jake moved like a ghost, making almost no noise despite his heavy armor. Connor tried to do the same. They cleared the first aisle. Empty. Second aisle. Empty. Third aisle. A Kreth jumped out from behind a crate. Its weapon came up. Connor froze, his mind going blank with fear. Jake reacted instantly. He fired twice. The first shot hit the Kreth's weapon, knocking it away. The second hit its chest. The creature fell. "Move!" Jake said sharply, pushing Connor forward. They found two more Kreth near the back of the warehouse. This time, Connor didn't freeze. He fired alongside Jake, and both enemies went down. The other soldiers reported 3 Kreth eliminated on their side. 6 total. The infiltration attempt had failed. "Good work," Kyle said as they regrouped outside. "Back to positions." They ran back to the east wall. The main battle still raged. Connor noticed Jake didn't even seem winded. He just took up his position again and started firing like nothing had happened. 2 hours passed. The Kreth kept coming in waves. Every time the defenders pushed them back, another group appeared. Connor's arms ached from holding his rifle. His throat was dry. His ears rang from the constant noise. "Air support departing for refuel," the radio announced. "You're on your own for 30 minutes. The Kreth seemed to know. They launched a massive push from all sides at once. Plasma fire filled the air like rain. An explosion took out part of the north wall. Connor saw soldiers fall. Some got back up, others didn't. "We need to close that breach," Lisa shouted. "Kyle, take a team." Kyle grabbed Beth, Jake, and 2 Velkari soldiers. "Connor, you're with us." They ran through smoke and chaos toward the north wall. The breach was 10 feet wide. Kreth soldiers were already pouring through. Kyle dropped to one knee and fired, hitting the first 2 enemies. Jake took position beside him. Beth started setting charges to collapse some nearby containers and block the gap. Connor fired at a Kreth climbing over rubble. He hit it, and it fell backward. A small victory, but it felt huge. "Charges set!" Beth yelled. "Fall back!" They ran. The explosion was deafening. Containers toppled, blocking most of the breach, but not all of it. Kreth still pushed through the remaining gap. "Hold them!" Kyle ordered. What followed was the most intense fighting Connor had ever experienced. It was close range, brutal, and terrifying. The Kreth were taller and stronger than most coalition species, but Jake fought like he was made for this. He moved between cover and attack with perfect timing. When his rifle ran empty, he switched to his sidearm without missing a beat. When that ran empty, he grabbed a fallen weapon. Connor tried to keep up. He fired until his rifle overheated, then grabbed magazines from fallen soldiers to reload. Time became strange. Seconds felt like hours. Hours felt like seconds. Then, suddenly, the Kreth pulled back. The shooting stopped. Silence fell over the depot, broken only by the moans of wounded soldiers and the crackle of fires. "Status report." Lisa's voice was tired over the radio. Each team checked in. They had held the depot. Casualties were heavy but not catastrophic. Reinforcements were 10 minutes out. Connor sat down hard, his legs shaking. Around him, other soldiers did the same. Most looked exhausted. Jake checked his weapon, reloaded it, and stood ready. He had some new scratches on his armor and a cut on his cheek, but otherwise looked fine. "You saved my life," Connor said. "In the warehouse. I froze." Jake shook his head. "First battle. It happens. You didn't freeze the second time, though. That's what matters." Megan appeared, checking soldiers for injuries. She cleaned the cut on Jake's face. "You need to rest," she told him. "Later," Jake replied. "That's what you always say." Reinforcements arrived. Fresh troops took over defensive positions. Captain Lisa gathered the survivors. "Good work today," she said. "We held them." But intelligence reports another attack is coming. Bigger. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. Get some food and rest while you can." The soldiers walked back to the transport ship. Connor felt like he was moving through mud. Everything hurt. His mind felt foggy. Beside him, Jake walked steadily, already planning for the next fight. "How many battles have you been in?" Connor asked. Jake thought about it. "I stopped counting after 100. Connor couldn't imagine that. One battle had nearly broken him. How did someone survive 100? As they boarded the transport, alarms started blaring again. Another alert, another crisis somewhere else on the planet. Jake sighed and checked his weapon again. "First today," he muttered. "Not the last." Connor watched him with new understanding. This was what humans did. They just kept fighting. The medical bay was busy when Connor arrived for his mandatory post-battle checkup. Doctors and medics moved between beds, treating injuries. Connor had been lucky, just some bruises and minor burns. Others hadn't been so fortunate. He found Jake sitting on a bed while Dr. Eric Chen examined him. The doctor was human. Older than Jake, with gray hair and tired eyes. He held a scanner over Jake's body, frowning at the results. "Your stress hormones are through the roof," Eric said. "Your body is running on adrenaline and willpower. You need real rest, at least 8 hours." "I'll rest when the situation calms down," Jake replied. "The situation won't calm down. There's always another fight." Eric put the scanner down. "Jake, I'm worried about you. About all the human soldiers, really. You push yourselves too hard." Connor approached quietly. "What do you mean?" Eric looked at him. "You're Blake, right? The Velkari recruit?" Connor nodded. "Come here. I want to show you something." He pulled up data on a large screen. "This is comparative biology, different species, and how they handle combat stress." The screen showed charts and numbers. Eric pointed to them as he explained. "Most species need significant recovery time after combat, physical and mental. A typical Velkari soldier, no offense, needs at least 12 hours of rest after a major battle. Some species need even longer. It's biological. Your bodies and minds require time to process the trauma." "And humans?" Connor asked. "Humans are different," Eric said. "They can compartmentalize. They push the trauma aside and keep functioning. Sometimes for days. Their bodies produce different stress hormones that allow them to maintain combat effectiveness far longer than they should." He looked at Jake. "The problem is, eventually it catches up. And when it does, the crash is severe." Jake stood up from the bed. "I'm fine, Doc." "You're not fine. None of you are." Eric's voice was sad. "But you keep going anyway." As Jake left, Connor followed him. They walked through the station corridors toward the recreation area. Most soldiers were there, trying to relax during the brief downtime. Connor saw Velkari soldiers lying down, some sleeping. A few Litharan soldiers sat quietly, meditating to recover their mental balance. The human soldiers, though, were different. Some played cards, others exercised, a few cleaned weapons. Nobody seemed to be resting. Megan sat at a table eating a meal that looked like it came from a ration pack. Connor and Jake joined her. "How long have you been out here?" Connor asked her. 4 years, Megan said. "Continuous service. I signed up after—" She paused. "After New Horizon." There was that name again. Connor had heard it twice now. "What's New Horizon?" Jake and Megan exchanged looks. Finally, Jake spoke. "It was a human colony. Small, peaceful, about 3,000 people. The Kreth attacked it early in the war. Before we understood what we were fighting. Before we were ready." His voice was flat, emotionless. "They killed everyone. Men, women, children. They didn't even take prisoners. Just wiped out the whole colony." "I had family there," Megan said quietly. "My sister and her kids." "My wife and daughter," Jake added. Connor felt cold. "I'm sorry. That's why I keep fighting," Jake said. Every battle I win, every depot I defend, every Kreth soldier I stop, it matters. It means another colony doesn't become New Horizon. He looked at Connor. You asked me how I keep going. That's how. I remember why I started. The conversation was interrupted by guards bringing in a Kreth prisoner. The insectoid alien was wounded and bound. They were taking it to the interrogation area. As they passed, the Kreth's eyes fixed on Jake. It made a clicking sound, speaking in its own language. A translator device on the guard's belt converted the words. The human persistence hunter, the Kreth said. We know your kind. You never stop. You never give up. You chase until we fall. The guards pulled the prisoner away. Connor stared after it. What did that mean? An older Velkari soldier at a nearby table answered. Human evolution. Your species studied it, right? Connor nodded. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. On Earth, their ancestors would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days. The prey would run until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then the humans would catch it. That trait never went away. That's what you do in war, another alien soldier added. You outlast your enemies. The Kreth are strong and fast, but they need rest. Humans just keep coming. It terrifies them. Connor thought about this. Jake had fought 3 times before Connor even met him. Then the battle at the depot. And he was ready to fight again right now. Meanwhile, Connor could barely stay awake. Other non-human soldiers were similar. They needed recovery time. Humans apparently didn't. Is that true? Connor asked Jake. You can just keep fighting? Jake shrugged. I wouldn't say we don't get tired. We do. We learn to ignore it when we have to. Push through it. Deal with it later. Later when? Later when there's time. And if there's never time? Jake didn't answer that. He didn't need to. Connor could see it in his eyes. The weariness that went deeper than physical exhaustion. The kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. Ambassador Nina Cross entered the recreation area. She was human, dressed in civilian clothes rather than military uniform. She looked like she hadn't slept in days either. She walked to the Kreth prisoners' holding area, probably for negotiations. She's been trying to arrange peace talks for months, Megan said. No success so far. The Kreth only respect strength, Jake said. They won't negotiate seriously until we prove we can beat them. And you humans are proving it, Connor said. One battle at a time. We're not the only ones fighting, Jake pointed out. You did well today, Blake. Your people are brave warriors. But we need rest. You don't. That's a huge advantage. It's also a curse, Megan said softly. We can keep fighting, so we do. And we don't know when to stop. Some human soldiers have been in combat for years without proper leave. It's destroying us from the inside. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. The announcement came over the speakers. All hands to stations. Kreth main fleet detected. Multiple capital ships. Massive assault imminent. This is not a drill. The recreation area emptied in seconds. Soldiers ran to their posts. Connor felt his heart drop. Another fight. Already. He had just survived one battle, and now another was coming. A bigger one. He looked at Jake, expecting to see fear or at least concern. Instead, Jake just looked resigned, like this was expected, normal even. Here we go again, Jake said, checking his weapon. How do you do this? Connor asked desperately. How do you keep fighting when you know it never ends? Jake looked at him for a long moment. Because someone has to. And humans, we're good at it. Maybe too good. He started walking toward the armory. Come on. Let's get ready. Connor followed, wondering if he would ever understand humans. They were simultaneously the bravest and most broken people he had ever met. The Kreth fleet appeared on the sensors like a swarm of angry insects, 30 capital ships, hundreds of smaller vessels, and thousands of fighters. It was the largest force they had sent yet. The station's defenses prepared for the worst. Connor stood in the briefing room with hundreds of other soldiers. Admiral Danny Wright, a human fleet commander, projected a holographic display of the battle space. His face was grim. "They're hitting us everywhere at once," Danny said. "Orbital stations, ground installations, supply lines. This is their big push. If we lose here, we lose the entire sector." He pointed to different locations on the map. "We need to hold out for 72 hours. Reinforcements from the 3rd Fleet are coming, but they're 3 days away." 72 hours. 3 days. Connor felt sick. He had barely survived 6 hours of combat. How could anyone fight for 3 days straight? He looked around the room. The non-human soldiers looked worried. Scared, even. The humans looked tired but determined. They knew what was coming, and they were ready to face it anyway. "Ground forces will defend key installations," Danny continued. "Space forces will engage their fleet and slow them down. Special operations teams will target high-value objectives. Questions?" Nobody asked anything. What was there to ask? They all knew the mission. Hold the line or die trying. The briefing ended and soldiers rushed to their assignments. Connor found himself separated from Jake in the chaos. His unit was sent to defend a communication array on the planet's surface. Jake's unit went somewhere else. The next 2 days became a blur of endless combat. Connor fought, slept for an hour, fought again. His unit held their position against 3 major attacks. By the 2nd day, half his unit was dead or wounded. The survivors were exhausted beyond anything Connor had thought possible. On his breaks, Connor heard reports from other battlefronts. The humans were everywhere. They fought in space, on the ground, and in special operations. While other species rotated units in and out, letting soldiers rest and recover, the human units just kept fighting. They were holding the line through sheer will. Connor heard stories. A human pilot named Captain Alex Ryan flew 32 combat missions in 40 hours. A human engineer held a damaged reactor together with her bare hands while under fire until reinforcements arrived. Human soldiers defended a hospital for 18 hours straight, never retreating even when surrounded. It was insane. It was impossible. But it was happening. On the 3rd day, Connor's unit received new orders. They were being pulled back for rest. Finally. He could barely stand. His hands shook constantly. His mind felt foggy and slow. He needed sleep desperately. As they boarded a transport, he saw Jake for the first time in days. His friend looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, new scars on his face and arms. His armor was scorched and dented in a dozen places, but he was still moving, still functional. "Blake," Jake said, his voice hoarse. "Good to see you made it." "You too." Connor wanted to say more, but he was too tired. "Are you going to rest now?" Jake shook his head. "New mission. Critical one." "Jake, you can't. You need to sleep." "Later." That word again. Always later. Captain Lisa gathered a small group. Jake, Megan, Kyle, Beth, and a special operations soldier named Laura Kim. All humans. Lisa looked at them seriously. "Intelligence located the Kreth command ship," she said quietly. "The flagship coordinating their entire attack. It's hanging back, outside the main battle zone. If we can disable it, their coordination falls apart. They might even retreat." "What's the plan?" Kyle asked. "Infiltration team. Small ship, stealth approach, board the flagship, plant explosives in their reactor core." Lisa paused. "It's a one-way trip, maybe. Extraction is possible, but not guaranteed." A suicide mission. Connor saw it on everyone's faces. They knew. "I'm going," Jake said immediately. "Me too," said Kyle. "Someone needs to handle explosives. That's me," Beth added. Laura nodded. "I'm in." Megan looked at them all. "You'll need a medic. I'm coming." Lisa shook her head. "Megan, you're too valuable here." "With respect, Captain, they'll need me, and I'm going." They argued for a minute, but Megan won. The team was set. 5 humans. A suicide mission to save the sector. Connor grabbed Jake's arm. You can't do this. You haven't slept in 3 days. You're running on nothing. Jake smiled, but it was sad. That's exactly why I'm going. I'm already at my limit. Might as well use what's left for something important. That's not how it should work. But it's how it does work. Jake put his hand on Connor's shoulder. If we pull this off, you'll get to go home. Your people will be safe. That's worth it. They left an hour later on a small stealth ship. Connor watched them go, feeling helpless. Around him, other soldiers did the same. Everyone knew what that team was attempting. Everyone knew the odds. The battle continued. Connor fought, rested, fought again. Hours passed with no word from the infiltration team. Then, suddenly, the Kreth fleet began acting strange. Their coordination broke down. Ships moved erratically. Their attacks became disorganized. "The flagship is disabled!" someone shouted. "They did it!" Cheers erupted across the communication channels. The Kreth fleet started withdrawing, their ships retreating in chaos. The battle was won, but at what cost? Connor waited at the landing bay with dozens of others. The stealth ship returned 4 hours after disabling the flagship. The rear door opened. Laura Kim stumbled out, badly wounded. Medics rushed to help her. Megan came next, supporting herself on a makeshift crutch. More wounds. Then Jake emerged, carrying Kyle's body. Beth's body came after, carried by medical personnel. They had succeeded, but Kyle and Beth were dead. Jake looked like he had aged 10 years. He set Kyle's body down gently, then just stood there, swaying slightly. Megan put her hand on his arm. "Jake, it's over. We won." "For now," Jake said quietly. Medical teams checked them over. Jake's injuries were extensive. Burns, cuts, a cracked rib, severe exhaustion. The doctors wanted to admit him immediately for treatment. He refused. "I need to report to Captain Lisa," he said. "Jake, you can barely stand," Eric protested. "I said later." Jake walked away, limping but upright. Connor followed him. "Jake, please, you need to stop. You need to rest." Jake turned to look at him. For the first time, Connor saw cracks in his armor. Not the physical kind, but the mental one. Jake's eyes were haunted, lost. "I don't know how to stop," Jake admitted quietly. "I've been fighting so long I don't remember what else to do. If I stop, I'll have to think about everything. All the people I've lost, all the things I've done. I can't face that yet." "So you just keep going? Until I can't anymore?" "Yeah." Jake looked at the ceiling. "That's what humans do, Blake. We push and push and push until we break. And then we break. And we either put ourselves back together or we don't." He looked back at Connor. "I'll rest soon. I promise. Just not yet." He walked away, leaving Connor standing there. Around them, the station slowly returned to normal. The battle was over. The Kreth had retreated. For the first time in days, there was silence. But Connor knew it wouldn't last. There would be another fight tomorrow, or the next day. And Jake would be there, ready to go again, because that's what humans did. They never stopped fighting. The medical bay was quieter now. The emergency had passed, and most wounded were stable. Connor visited Jake there on the 4th day after the big battle. He found his friend lying in a bed, finally forced to rest by his injuries. Jake was asleep when Connor arrived, but it didn't look peaceful. His face was tight, and he moved restlessly even in sleep. Megan sat in a chair beside the bed, her leg in a cast. She looked up when Connor entered. "How is he?" Connor asked quietly. "Physically, he'll recover," Megan said. "Mentally?" She shook her head. "That's harder to say. The doctors are worried. He pushed himself too far this time." Connor sat down. "Will he be able to fight again?" Megan gave him a sharp look. "Is that really what you want to ask? Whether he can go back to war?" No. I suppose not." Connor felt ashamed. I'm sorry. I just meant... I know what you meant. Megan's voice softened. You're wondering if he's broken. If we're all broken. She looked at Jake. The answer is yes, we are. But we keep going anyway because we don't know how else to be. Jake stirred and opened his eyes. It took him a moment to focus. When he saw Connor, he tried to sit up. Megan stopped him. Stay down, she ordered. Doctor's orders. You're not cleared for duty. How long was I out? Jake asked. 2 days, Megan said. You finally crashed. Your body just shut down. Jake processed this. 2 days. Connor saw the calculation in his eyes. 2 days without fighting, without being useful, without doing his job. It clearly bothered him. What did I miss? Jake asked. Peace talks started, Connor told him. Ambassador Nina is negotiating with the Kreth. The battle... What you did, it made them respect our strength. They're willing to talk now. That's good, Jake said, but he didn't sound entirely convinced. Captain Lisa visited later that afternoon. She brought medals for the infiltration team. For Kyle and Beth, they would be posthumous. For Jake, Laura, and Megan, they were presented with full honors. You saved thousands of lives, Lisa said. Maybe tens of thousands. The Kreth offensive failed because of what you did. Jake accepted the medal but set it aside immediately. Kyle and Beth did just as much. More, even. They'll be remembered as heroes, Lisa assured him. She looked at Jake seriously. The admirals want to send you home, Jake. Full retirement, honors, pension. You've done enough. More than enough. Connor expected Jake to refuse immediately, but he didn't. He just stared at the wall, thinking. Can I have time to decide? Jake finally asked. Take all the time you need. Lisa left. Over the next week, Jake slowly recovered physically. Connor visited him every day. They talked about many things, the war, home, what came after. Jake seemed lost, like a ship without navigation. I don't know who I am without this, Jake admitted one day. I've been a soldier for 15 years. Before that, I was a colonist, a husband, a father. All those things are gone now. Fighting is all I have left. You could find new things, Connor suggested. New purposes. Maybe. But how do you just stop? How do you turn it off? Connor didn't have an answer. Ambassador Nina visited Jake one afternoon. She looked tired but hopeful. The peace talks are progressing, she told them. Not a full peace treaty yet, but a ceasefire. Both sides have agreed to stop fighting while we negotiate. That's good news, Jake said. It is, and I want you to know why it happened. Nina sat down. The Kreth respect strength, but more than that, they respect persistence. They told me something interesting. They said humans hunt differently than any species they've encountered. Most species fight until they're tired, then stop. But humans chase until their prey falls. They never give up, never quit. It terrifies the Kreth, but it also earned their respect. We're just doing what we had to do, Jake said. I know. And that's exactly what makes you remarkable. Nina stood. You evolved as persistence hunters on Earth. Chasing prey for hours or days until it collapsed. That trait never went away. In war, it became your greatest weapon. But Jake, she looked at him seriously. You need to know when the hunt is over, when to stop chasing. Otherwise, you'll run yourself into the ground. After she left, Jake was quiet for a long time. Connor sat with him, letting him think. She's right, Jake finally said. I've been running for so long I forgot I could stop. So what will you do? Connor asked. I don't know yet. The answer came 2 weeks later. The ceasefire held. Peace talks continued. The station relaxed, transitioning from combat operations to peacetime routines. Jake was cleared for duty, but there was no combat to return to. Connor found him in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. I'm being transferred, Connor said. Back to my home world. The Velkari government is recalling all troops since the fighting stopped. That's good. Jake said. You should go home. See your family. What about you? Are you going home? Jake smiled slightly. I don't really have a home to go back to, so I think I'll stay out here. They need trainers, people to teach the next generation how to fight, just in case the peace doesn't last. I can do that. Help prepare others without being on the front line myself. That's a good choice, Connor said. You'll be a great teacher. I hope so. Jake looked at him. You did well, Blake. That first day, you were terrified. By the end, you were fighting like a veteran. Your people should be proud of you. I learned from the best. Connor held out his hand. Thank you, Jake. For everything. For saving my life. For teaching me how to be brave. Jake shook his hand. You were always brave. You just needed to discover it. They talked for a while longer, then Connor had to leave to catch his transport. As he walked away, he looked back once. Jake still stood at the window, staring at the stars, looking peaceful for the first time since Connor had met him. 3 months passed. Connor returned to his homeworld and tried to adjust to civilian life. It was harder than he expected. He had nightmares about the battles. He jumped at loud noises. But slowly, with help from his family and other veterans, he started to heal. One day he received a message. It was from Megan. The peace had broken. Not completely, but a small conflict had erupted on a border world. Just a local dispute, not a full war, but it needed soldiers, and Jake had volunteered. Connor felt his heart sink. He sent a message back asking why. Why would Jake return to fighting when he finally had a chance at peace? Megan's reply came a day later. He tried to stop. He really did. He trained new soldiers. He attended therapy. He did everything right. But when the call came, he answered. Because that's what Jake does. That's what humans do. They hear someone needs help and they go, even when it costs them everything. Connor stared at the message for a long time. Then he made a decision. He requested transfer back to active duty. His family protested, but he was firm. He had learned something from humans, from Jake. Some people were born to fight, not because they loved war, but because they couldn't stand by while others suffered. 2 weeks later, Connor arrived at a new station orbiting the border world. It was smaller than the last one, less equipped. He walked through the corridors toward the briefing room carrying his gear. In the armory, he saw a familiar figure. Jake was there, checking his rifle, preparing for deployment. He looked up when Connor entered. Blake, Jake said, surprised. What are you doing here? Someone told me you might need backup, Connor replied. Jake smiled, genuinely pleased. You didn't have to come. I know, but I wanted to. Connor started preparing his own gear. Someone once taught me that you don't stop fighting just because it's hard. You keep going because it matters. I hope I didn't teach you that too well, Jake said quietly. This life, it takes a toll. I know, but I'm here anyway. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then a young human soldier approached them nervously. His name tag said Phillips. He couldn't have been more than 20 years old. Excuse me, Phillips said to Jake. I heard you're Jake Martinez, the Jake Martinez, from the Battle of Keras 7. That's me, Jake confirmed. Phillips looked excited and scared at the same time. This is my first deployment, my first real fight. I'm pretty nervous. Is this your first fight? Jake glanced at Connor, who smiled. Then Jake looked back at the young soldier. First today, Jake said with a slight smirk. Maybe not the last. Phillips laughed nervously. Oh, right. That makes sense. As the young soldier walked away, Connor shook his head. You're never going to stop, are you? Jake checked his rifle one final time. Probably not. It's who I am now. Who we are. Humans who can't stop fighting. He looked at Connor seriously. But at least I'm not alone anymore. Thanks for coming back, Blake. Thank you for teaching me what it means to never give up." The alarm sounded. Another mission, another battle, another chance to make a difference. Jake and Connor walked toward the transport bay together, ready to face whatever came next. Because that's what they did. That's what humans did. They kept fighting, kept pushing forward, kept protecting others no matter the cost. The war might never truly end, but neither would they. And perhaps that was both humanity's greatest strength and its deepest curse.